probably one of the most spiritual experiences that was, well, I was on my mission, is me and my companion, we were in Yuenlin, and I was pretty new to the area, and we had this plan made for our day, and we were planning to visit people and do this and that and whatnot. And our plans were just kept falling through. Like, our plans would fall through, people wouldn't show up, or things like that. And so we're along the side of the road, and it's raining, and we're wet, and we're just like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, our plans A, B, and C have like all fallen through. Like, what do we do now? And so we were like, okay, well, why don't we say a prayer while we're here alongside the road? And so we said a prayer, and then after the prayer, we're kind of sitting there, seeing if we feel a prompting for something to do. And my companion's like, well, why don't we go visit these former investigators? Like, so why don't we go visit some of these former investigators? And missionaries left these records of people who had met with the missionaries before and then stopped meeting with them for whatever reason. And we had met with former investigators before, and it never felt like it actually worked, because it felt like, we'd go and visit these people, and they were just like, no, like, I didn't want to meet with you guys, and things like that. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we can do that. And so he pulls out a record of this guy, and this guy had met with the missionaries maybe once or something. They had his address, and we had his name, and that was about it. And so we go and we find this guy, and we had stopped by this house before, and every time we'd stop by, there'd never been anyone home. And so we knock on the door, and someone comes to the door, and it's actually the guy. It's the guy we were looking for. And so we were pretty amazed that we actually found this guy, and he invites us in, and he's like, yeah, you guys are all well. Like, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here in Taiwan? And we just told him about how we were missionaries, and he didn't even remember having met with the missionaries before. I think he remembered seeing them on the street or something. And so we started to actually have lessons with him. And at first he was just like, I'm not really interested. Like, I'm not really interested in what you guys are teaching. Like, I'm Buddhist. Like, I'm good. He's like, but I'm just kind of curious about why you guys are here. And so we started to have lessons with him. And in that first stage, when you start meeting with people, you're really hopeful that it's going to go somewhere. You're really hopeful that they're going to start doing what you say. I mean, that they start, you give them invitations to do things like, come to church or pray or read the scriptures. And he started to take these invitations. He started like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. Like, why not? And so he started to actually do it, and we just saw him start to really progress. And it was cool because he started to see answers to his prayers. Like, he started, praying about specific things, and then he would see, he'd see answers to his prayers in his own life. And that was really neat of him that was really neat to see. And just a couple months down the road, he ended up getting baptized, and I ended up leaving that area eventually. And about a year later, after I'd left that area, he sent me an email, and he's like, I'm super active in the church. Like, I'm really grateful that you shared the gospel with me, because it's really changed my life. And he's like, I really wish that I had known about this sooner. And that was a really rewarding to hear that, that he truly developed his own testimony, that he wasn't getting baptized because of us, the missionaries, or he wasn't getting baptized because we were nice American people who just came to his house or whatever, but it really was meaningful and was deep to him. And so that was probably one of the most rewarding things, most spiritual things that happened on my mission. So probably one of the funniest language mistakes was, I hadn't been in Taiwan for more than a couple months, and more than maybe even a month. It's probably just a month. And I go into the store, I go into 7-Eleven, and there's tons and tons of 7-Elevens. They're on every street corner in Taiwan, and they're just a convenience store. I think most people in the US are used to having 7-Eleven's a gas station where you have your gas and you have your food, but in Taiwan it's just a convenience store that sells stuff. And so they have these pre-prepared meals, and they're actually really good. And so for lunch, sometimes we'd stop by 7-Eleven and just get something. And a question they always ask you is "要加热吗?" which is do you want me to heat it up for you? And I misheard the person speaking to me, and I thought that she had said, is it hot outside? And I was like, yeah, it's really hot. I was like, okay, yeah, it's really hot. And they just started laughing, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And she's like, no. Do you want me to heat this up for you? I was like, oh, yes, please, please heat this up for me. She wasn't asking me what the weather was outside. She was asking me if I wanted to have her heat this up. So anyways, that was kind of embarrassing. So in Taiwan, the traditional religions are Taoism and Buddhism, and the vast majority of the country ascribe to one of the religions, but it's kind of there's a lot of fusion of Buddhism and Taoism within like what people believe. It's kind of a fusion of the two beliefs. But in the more rural areas, it's very traditional, and there's lots of Taoist parades and things like that. And me and a small group of missionaries, we were in a town, and they were having it must have been a festival for one of the gods or something. And so we're walking the streets, and in the Taoist religion, they have these people called jitongs, which are like spiritual mediums. And so what they do is that they get like possessed they kind of like believe that the god will come inside this person. This person's kind of like acting as the god, and they'll whip themselves, or they'll like pierce their cheeks with like needles and things like that. And so we went by this parade, and like there's a tent, and inside the tent was a jitong, and he was just kind of spazzing out. And so it was kind of strange. It was a little bit unusual. It definitely was. That was a little bit of a crazy experience. Be prepared to work hard. Just make sure that make sure that you have the mindset that like I'm going to work hard and I'm going to do my best while I'm there. Be prepared for lots of bike riding. You won't be in a car for most of your mission. You'll definitely be on two wheels, which is great. I ended up loving biking. I would bike since I was a kid, but like in Taiwan, you are on a bike almost like 12 hours a day for 365 days a year. I mean, if you have the opportunity and the chance to try to pick up some Chinese before you go, I think that it'll be an advantage to you, and I think you'll be able to integrate yourself into the mission faster by being able to speak Chinese. And I think that's very key to be able to connect with the peoples, and is being able to communicate with them. That's really important part of being able to connect with the people. And I think definitely spiritual preparation is something that you can't overlook. I think you definitely have to build your own testimony, and you have to have your own personal testimony of the Book of Mormon and the Restoration and Jesus Christ and Heavenly Father, because those are the things you're going to be teaching people. And so if you feel like you need your testimony should be stronger, or you feel like there's some improvements to be made, just like start doing the things that preach my gospel. And I think that's really important. Is like, I think as a pre-missionary, I wish I would have been a little bit more diligent at reading Preach My Gospel and becoming more familiar with that book, because that is your instruction for your mission. That is what you're going to be teaching people. And the sooner that you become familiar with it, the more effective of a teacher you can become. And there's just so many good suggestions as in Preach My Gospel of how to be an effective missionary, but more important than that, just how to be an effective person in general. So I think that that's something that I wish I would have been a little bit better at had I known, like that I probably should have been, more familiar with Preach My Gospel. So yeah, those are some of the things that I kind of wish I would have been more familiar with before. So I think that the most important thing that I learned while I was on my mission is the importance of just faith to missionary work and to life in general. I think faith is just crucial. It's, the definition of faith is a belief in things that we can't see, but things that are true. And I think that's key to missionary work. Like, you're in this foreign environment, you're in a foreign place, you're doing something that you've probably never done before in your entire life. And I think for me at least, it would be easy to be like, oh man, like I don't know if I'm gonna, I don't know how this is gonna work out. But you just go out and you try it anyway. Like, you go out and you talk to people in the streets, even if you don't know if they're gonna listen or not, and you just trust that Heavenly Father's aware of you, and that there are people who need what you have, and there's people who need the gospel in their lives and who want it, and if you're willing to believe that, then you will find those people who really are, because that motivates you. Having that faith motivates you to go out and work and to just do your best as a missionary. And I think that was a huge part. And one of the mottos of the Taiwan Taichung mission was 有信心有办法, which is like, have faith, have a way. So like, if you believe enough, like, you'll have a way to get those things that you believe in accomplished. And I just think that was one of the biggest things that I learned on my mission, was just the importance of faith to doing something new and doing something that you're unfamiliar with. And, and God will give you divine assistance, as if you're his missionary and you are doing what you're supposed to do, like, God is going to help you. So anyways, that was probably the deepest lesson that I learned while I was on my mission.